we used to do this thing, well, they used to have these wigs, they were called rooted wigs. So essentially, instead of being a lace front, the front hair was, I basically chopped really short. So they got to be glued kind of like, so then it would like kind of press down around this to create a sort of illusion that the hair was growing out of your scalp, when really I look back and I'm like, that's a jagged edge. That is so jagged, but that was what we had, you know, but you've got to do a certain amount of that. It doesn't mean you've got to work for free, because everybody deserves to be paid, right? So it's very much like pick and choose your battles and just get that experience, like try everything.
Hey everyone, I'm here with my very good friend Duane, who's been in the industry now for how many years?
Oh gosh, well I did just turn the ripe old age of 38, so I'm gonna say about 19 years.
Wow, so much experience in the beauty space. So I'm really keen to pick your brains today about your experience in the industry, how you came to be in the position that you're at, and you know, any tips and tricks along the way. I know you've got lots of famous clients as well, so I'm so excited to pick your brain today. As I mentioned, Duane's one of my very good friends, and I'm so excited to present him all to you guys. So welcome, Duane.
Thanks. I kind of feel like a bit cute to be here, to be honest. Like, I know we've been talking about it for a while, and it's like, obviously given manic schedule and even like sometimes planning it in and then like things having to change. Because I'm very much a planner. So like when, you know, these unforeseen things pop up, like work-wise, it kind of gets me a little frazzled. And I'm like, well, that's not what I've planned. Like, I'm very like, what do you call it? Process. Yeah. So sometimes I kind of have a little freak out when there's these minute things that come up.
I really, really appreciate you making the time for us, because I know you're super busy, traveling all over Australia, educating lots of different stores, including Mecca and Sephora, all about fragrance, perfume, makeup, skincare as well. Tell me a little bit how you came into the industry.
Oh God, if I can, you know, access the memory bank of, you know, a century ago. I'll try and keep it a little brief. So before I got into beauty, I had a background in hospitality. So after leaving school, you know, did a chefing apprenticeship, which ultimately I didn't finish.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, so I was a chef and a baker, you know, multi-talented
This is why you're a great cook. I actually didn't know that. How did I not know this?
Well, I suppose it's because I've been in beauty for so long that like, even I kind of forget you know, that I've done that. So, you know, started from kitchen hand to, you know, then doing the split shifts of all the baking in the morning, so all the cute muffins and slices, and kind of managing cook breakfast at the same time while the dockets are flying out the bloody, you know, machine. Fast forward a few years, you know, living in Auckland, must have been about 18 or so when I, you know, came out as such, and then discovered that like I always had this like drive for an artistic sort of outlet, but never really had it. But then I suppose, you know, working in hospitality, becoming a chef and a baker, kind of fulfilled that for a bit. And then
there's certainly a creative element when it comes to food too.
People like, you know, how did you get into makeup and fragrance and skincare from that? And I was like, well, even when I go back to school, like anything to do with using my hands or creative was always something that I was really good at. So I, you know, it wasn't really a surprise to me, but I actually started doing drag first, which is really interesting because I went from like, you know, scrubbing plates, baking cupcakes, you know, cooking steaks as such, to then, you know, doing a bit of face beat on K Road in Auckland. Oh my God. All within like the space of less than a year.
Wow.
Like I'd barely even come out, and then all of a sudden I'm on, you know.
So you came out and you said, I'm here.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I started to get a personality, I call it, because it's a bit of a wallflower. And that sort of like was kind of like, oh, I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy the whole process of the transformation. You know, I was always performing in my bedroom, with the door shut, little towel up, do Venga Boys' greatest hits and things like that. So honestly, if I could have like, you know, if they had iPhones back then, I say back then,
you would have been viral.
It would have been all on, you know, recording. And so after a little while of doing that, a friend of mine was kind of like, you should go and study makeup. So I studied at an academy called Cut Above in New Zealand. Which was, you know, kind of really weird in a way because I was the oldest in the class at like 22, you know, because a lot of the students in there, you know, were ranging anywhere from like 16 to 20. So I was kind of
Fresh
like,
out of school.
yeah,
And
I was kind of like the daddy of the class.
love it. Daddy of our hearts.
Yeah, so that was really cool though. So it kind of was like, this is where I'm meant to be. Sort of dabbled in freelance, obviously drag, and then doing other makeup as well. And then, you know, moved to Australia, and that sort of then kicked it off even more with loads of different, you know, jobs. Mac was my first beauty job. Loved that. Various different roles across there as well. And then now I'm here like multi-branded education manager for 5 brands in 2 countries.
That's amazing.
Probably more.
That's amazing.
Soon, you know, with the way the world's going.
Yes.
More for less.
Yes. Bang for your buck.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. So when you started to get into drag, did you also do some hair along with the makeup as well? Because I know, you know, the wigs and everything like that is a part of it. The hair pieces, getting it nice and big. Was that part of your learning process too, and your creative process?
To be honest, I was more of a shake and go.
Okay. Fair.
I mean, look, I did have hair once upon a time.
Yeah.
But when I think back to studying at the academy, because hair units, nail units, all that kind of stuff was a part of the makeup course, because you had to have a certain amount of units for it to be an accredited course, right?
Yep.
So, but when I think back to doing the hair, I hated it so much. It stressed me out.
Yeah.
Caused me so much anxiety. Like the finger waves, I just couldn't get it. French rolls, victory rolls, like they were just like, the way I would do it would be, it would look the part, but if there was like a little gust of breeze, it would just fall apart.
You sneeze and it falls apart.
Yeah. But because my tutor was like, she could kind of see that, you know, I was really passionate, and really, you know, I had the love for makeup and beauty. She was extra hard on me, so she'd come up with like, you know, pens and kind of like tap on the French roll at the back and it would just fall apart, and she'd make me do it again.
Oh my God.
Even though full well the person next to me looks like a bird nest.
She wanted more for you.
Yeah. She was extra harsh on me, because I'd be looking at other makeup and being like, "God, that ain't even blended." Like, I can see the line from way in the back of the room, you know. So she was always very, very particular. But I thank her for that, because she really, you know, gave me the tools to like want to do better and want to improve.
That's true.
So no, hair was not. Was definitely a shake and go. But I had I could do basics.
Yeah.
You know, like attaching a hair piece, and you know, this is pre-lace front.
Pre-lace
so
front.
These wigs were hard front.
Oh yeah.
So you had to really jazz it up. We used to do this thing. Well, they used to have these wigs. They were called rooted wigs. So essentially, instead of being a lace front, the front hair was, I basically chopped really short and then kind of like hard glued down. You know, they got to be glued kind of like, so then it would like kind of press down around this to create a sort of illusion that the hair was growing out of your scalp, when really I look back and I'm like, that's a jagged edge. That is so jagged. But that was what we had. You know, even when good lace fronts started coming out, you know, they're very, very expensive.
They are.
So, you know, the whole drag thing as well was very much a cycle of, you know, you could make good money, but it was a constant evolving, like money in, money out. You know, new wigs, new costumes and things like that. So,
and of course you've got to keep it interesting too as a performer doing that.
You can't be walking in with the same outfit you're going to perform in. You've got to have an arrival outfit. Then you have performance outfits.
Oh my God.
Then you have a post-performance mingling outfit. So like, you know, having learned how to sew and style wigs would have been very helpful to keep the costs down, but I could do neither.
Lucky you got face.
Because go back to high school, like I was very good at anything sort of creative, but I kept breaking all the needles because I was just like very heavy footed, you know. I'd break a needle all the time. So I even got banned from using the machine for a bit, because they're like, Duane, you've gone through all your needles and you've used all the spare ones.
Oh my gosh.
So like, that kind of like stunted that learning experience on sewing. So luckily for me, I had some friends, you know, who sewed, and we would perform together. So
one thing about drag that I love, particularly like in the community is that there is such a community with drag, and everybody helps each other.
Yeah.
Everybody supports each other.
I mean, they're also cutthroat.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you know, there are some things you just don't do. Like, you don't undercut somebody. It can be a little territorial, but like, I always sort of like to think I was like the Miss Congeniality, because I'd kind of be in between like sort of rivals as such. But the New Zealand drag scene, or just queer community in general, is quite small. So, you know, there's no room for that kind of bitchiness. Do you know what I mean?
And I guess if you have that bitchiness, you'll be found out about straight away.
Yeah, you ain't getting hired. You ain't, you know, getting the gigs.
For sure.
So, but it was a very, very fun time.
Yeah.
One that I will still have those friends or sisters or
Love
family,
that.
you know, for life. And even though it's been a hot minute since, you know, I retired,
Yeah.
I hung up the heels.
Hung up the heels.
2011.
Damn. That's a while ago.
Queen's birthday, ironically.
Would you ever get into it again?
Well, I've kind of dabbled in it a couple of times since then for projects, but I think the beauty of drag for me was coming out of my shell, you know, because it's very much a character. You can kind of hide behind the facade, and you know, you meet any drag queen, I guarantee you that a huge percentage of them are very, you know, out of drag, are quite reserved, because this art form allows them to be bigger and, you know, personality wise and more confident. So that's what it really gave me. And I guess when it came to the end of that, which was only supposed to be a little break, because, you know, I was full-time job 5 days a week,
which is hard to do in drag. It's hard to be fully employed in drag.
Yeah, you got the rehearsals, you got the outfit fitting, then you've got the weekends, and you know, drag queens perform late.
Yeah.
We're not having a show at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
It's midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And, you know, by that point, you know, you're a little liquored up, so you ain't going home. And then you've got to try and go to the next stage where you've got, you know, remnants of lash glue.
I'd take my hat off because I personally couldn't do it.
Look, it was exhausting, but then, like, you know, the later on I got into, you know, I guess the age, it just became too hard to do both.
Yeah.
But then having worked at Mac sort of towards the end, that then shifted my focus into the, like, creative outlet.
Yeah.
So, and then because I'd gained what essentially was probably what I needed from drag, which was that confidence and personality.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, you weren't quiet once upon a time. It's like, I assure you I was. If I had proof, like, if you've known me for, like, you know, a good 15 plus years, you know, I wasn't always the loud, bubbly, handsy, you know, Duane that you see today.
Well, we love you in every iteration, Duane. Thank you so much for taking me through that. The other thing I want to ask is, when you started, well, as you were in drag, is that how you met sort of your famous clients? You know, was it through shows, or was it more in a professional setting through your makeup work?
More through the later.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my dear friends, Joanne.
Oh my God. If anybody doesn't know Joanne, she was huge in the 90s, and I absolutely idolized her.
And so did I, because
oh my God.
that was my very first drag show, was Jackie.
And
way
she's
back.
Maori as well, isn't she?
No, I thought she was. No, she's actually South African.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah, but she just has a lot of Kiwi friends, spent
Yeah.
a lot of time in New Zealand. So, yeah, but she was like my performing inspiration, because the second I heard that song at high school, when I started in 99, like, we were on a school bus trip. Well, we'd just come back from camp, and we were on the bus, right? So there's me at 14, maybe 13, 14, in this crowded bus full of smelly schoolboys and impulse-saturated girls. And then the song comes on, and then it was like, it kind of lit this sort of firing within me, and it was just ironic how, you know, that became then my first drag show, and then we've now become family.
That's amazing.
Super cute. So I guess, you know, you could draw a correlation there in a way, but that definitely propelled me into obviously like improving makeup skills, and then building connections through doing private gigs and sort of things like that. So,
what's been your favourite gig over the years?
Well, you know, the private gigs or the corporate gigs were always the best because they paid.
Yeah.
They gave the coin.
Yeah.
Purely because it's, you know, it was something that was, it's kind of not every day for that sort of client base. So doing things like Vodafone gigs.
Fun.
I've done gigs at Army and Navy bases, which were always very interesting because you'd have this pocket of like, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah.
And they're just people who would really embrace it. But I think, you know, sort of, I guess if I talk about drag, the best ones were actually when I worked in cabaret restaurants. So think like Dracula's, but with drag queens.
That's
you know,
so fun.
we perform for you and then we serve you food.
I love that.
Because they were so fun. I mean, you did get a lot of, you know, the woo
Yeah.
girls,
Yep.
you know, at heads parties, but they were cute. It was always really nice. And I felt like, for me at least, it was appreciated a lot more because when you're in a club environment, especially like a queer club, it's, you know, it's week in, week out.
Yeah.
It's like Drag Race. We're at like season 20 something now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I'm dragged out.
Yeah.
So it was always really fun, but like that was your bread and butter,
Yeah.
which was your club gigs. But I did New Zealand Fashion Week, so I actually got to run a real catwalk for a change and not just the hallway at my house. So that was always fun. I mean, the dress was horrendous.
What happened?
Well, it just was really bulky and orange.
Oh.
Like orange, tangerine orange. So
Oh.
it wasn't my favourite.
Okay.
But hey, I was on TV, so,
That's the main thing.
you know, so that would probably be my favourite. Obviously, you know, with Joanne, like I do her makeup, you know, every now and again for certain things. But it's kind of at the point now where she's like, no, like, you know, like, we're friends. Like, I want you to always, you know.
She wants you to go along with her rather than do makeup.
You know, not work. But
Yeah.
it's something I love to do. And, you know, it just becomes more chilled instead of having her sort of run around. But those are definitely some highlights. I mean, there's probably 100 more. But yeah, I have to say those private gigs. I did one once for an old internet company in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And literally we got paid like a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
Right. So they gave us an executive king suite penthouse
Oh my God.
to stay in, but then gave us another executive suite to get ready in because they didn't want us to mess up like our room.
That's
and
amazing.
I was like, are you sure? So this was like well over, you know, a couple of grand already at this point. And they were going to watch Priscilla,
Oh my gosh.
which was at a theatre near where we were staying. And all we had to do was literally just like serve them drinks, mingle, camp it up.
I love it.
I think at one point, like I dropped a whole tray of wine that I was just holding. I don't know why I was holding the whole tray, but I was. And they just thought it was hilarious.
Of course.
And then, you know, I mean, look, to be honest, probably was a little like, you know, tipsy by that point. And we just hung out with them for a couple of hours and then escorted them down to the pub and that was it.
I
was
love
like, so
it.
they were great.
I
They were my
love
favourite.
it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know that you've got so much experience in the makeup industry. Do you have any advice for our students who are in our makeup course that are perhaps wanting to break into like a counter or a Sephora or Mecca or even start their own business and do private clients? What's
Yeah.
your advice there?
One thing I wish I knew a long time ago was actually figuring out where do you want to be? Do you want to do freelance? Do you want to work in film and TV? Do you want to be a trainer? Whatever it is, because one piece of advice that I was given was that, you know, how do you know how to get there when you don't know where the end point is essentially?
Yeah.
Something kind of like that. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you know where to go if you don't know where you're going?
Yeah.
So
That's
working
really-
backwards.
That's really powerful. How do you know where to go? if
How do you know
where
how
you're
to
going?
get there if you don't know where you're
Yeah.
going? And it just really, it was like a light bulb moment for me. So, you know, you don't have to have everything figured out, but if you have at least a few ideas and then kind of work backwards,
You can
what do
then
I need
put-
to do?
You can then put the steps in motion
Yeah.
to achieve what you want to achieve, right?
Because it can be very overwhelming when you think, oh, well, I want to be in film and TV, or I want to be at Fashion Week, which was the be all and end all when I first started at
Yeah.
Mac. It was like, you know, oh, I want to go to Fashion Week. And there was always this expectation of like, you know, I've been here 6 months. I should be at Fashion Week.
Where's my invite?
And you know, after all the million certifications they used to put us through, and you finally get to Fashion Week, and then you're like, oh shit, this is why
Yeah.
you needed to do all those. Because then even then you don't quite feel prepared until you're in it. So that was one of the things for me. And then you just give it a go. Like you've just got to put your hand out, and as corny as it is, network, because
Yeah.
you don't know who the person either sitting in your chair is, if it's on counter, who that person is.
Yeah.
Like I've had a lot of other private gigs and things like that just by talking to people.
Yeah, that networking
know,
is so important.
It's huge because, yeah, like I said, you don't know who's in your chair, whether it's a private gig or, you know, like an on-site like work experience or something like that. You know, a lot of people kind of turn their nose up at that, but you've got to do a certain amount of that. It doesn't mean you've got to work for free, because everybody deserves to be paid, right? So it's very much like pick and choose your battles, and just get that experience. Like try everything, because you know you may realize, oh, actually I don't like this. Because when I got to Fashion Week, I was like, absolutely not. Am I ever doing this again?
It's interesting you say that, because I did some work for Channel 7 in TV. And I thought at the time...
Which is hard.
It's hard.
It's hard work.
It's hard. But I had this idea that it would be really easy.
Yeah.
That I'd go, do the face, touch up, stand by.
Yeah.
But it was so difficult, and it really just didn't align with what I like to produce and my creativity. So it was only after having that experience that I realised that's actually not where I want to be. So I needed to regroup and recalibrate. And that's fine as well, if that's what you need to do to... you know, get where you want to be and what a place that makes you happy and comfortable, then I would definitely encourage our students to do so.
Yeah, because I did the same thing in New Zealand with TVNZ. It's very long days.
Long days.
You know, makeup for film and TV is very different. You can't be pulling out this Instagram stuff, which has a place.
Yep.
It does. I'm not going to hate on it.
Yep.
But that wasn't really for me either. And of course, I wasn't great at doing hair. And, you know, working in film and TV, they're way more likely to hire someone that can do both.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to lie, there was one time where I was like, yeah, I can do hair. And they wanted like this full-on Farrah Fawcett finger wave, sort of blow wave sort of stuff. And I was just like freaking out.
Did you make it work though?
I did. Look,
did.
it didn't look the best, but then like in comparison to what they had before, like it was probably
a big improvement.
You know, I could wing it. Just a whole lot of hairspray, zhuzhing. A lot of hand movements because I couldn't figure out the whole, you know, the brush comb and I just couldn't get that movement. So I just sort of like used my hand. Okay, it looked like crap from behind.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
But the camera's not there.
That's not where the camera is.
But yeah, put your hands up for everything. Like if I think over the years, I've done some things that I wouldn't do now because I don't really like that. But you've got to kind of have this varied experience to just even show that, like, you know, you're really keen, or you've got that like initiative,
and to build portfolio as well, to have that experience under your belt, so you can take it to another prospective employer and say, hey, I've actually done this, I've worked on this, and I've done this, and I have a lot of experience in the role. So I think everything counts, especially.
Absolutely. And because like that's essentially how I got, I guess, you know, getting into the role that I have now. I didn't go to uni. I dropped out of high school just as I turned 16 because I just didn't really understand like school, and it was sort of very, to me, at least when I think back, very kind of textbook, right? There was no like what they call style stepping, you know, to different learning styles. So that kind of created this like more sheltered version of me. So then when opportunities come up, I just would put my hand up for it, even though if I knew I wasn't the best. Yeah. But just doing that, because a lot of the times I've worked with people who kind of sit back and then wonder why opportunities don't just fall in their lap.
That's true.
And you know, you are one of, you know, whether it's in a company, you know, you're one of hundreds of people, or when you go out on your own, there's thousands and thousands. And if you're kind of just sitting there waiting for it to come your way, well, you know, the tough reality is it doesn't happen like that.
That's true.
And we didn't have, you know, viral moments back in 2000 and whatever it was, you know what I mean? Like, you had to put yourself out there. Yeah. And just by showing up, being there, being prepared.
Being professional.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you can have a little kiki and a ha-ha, but like, at the end of the day, there's a job to be done. So, and then even if it's something that's like a comp job or something that maybe you're not getting paid for, there are people there that have connections.
Absolutely.
They're working on another project. They're working on this.
I like to say to students as well, even if you are doing a complementary job or, you know, a love job, as I like to call them. Yeah. You have to understand that what you're getting paid is in experience and in your networking opportunities.
100%.
Rather than, you know, focusing on the monetary benefit, which I
Look,
also think is really important
it
to the
is.
chase as well.
It is. You know, you've got to be paid. You know, you've got to pay the bills.
For sure.
But then there are some things that, like, you kind of have to think bigger picture sometimes. That doesn't mean you have to do everything for free for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know, we have lifestyles to fund.
We sure do.
But you just never know. Like, there have been some jobs that, like, I've gone, oh gosh, when I took it on, I was feeling like really extroverted.
Yep.
And like had all this time, and then I've gone and overbooked myself, and then think, God, the last thing I want to do is a free gig.
Yeah.
But you suck it up, you go, and then from there, other jobs just like come your way. Like,
What I found is in those moments where you don't want to do something, it's where you got to push yourself even more.
they're the best ones,
and
though.
and they end up being the best experiences.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but every time I felt sort of more reserved in going to a job, I've found that that's been one of the best, better experiences in my career.
Well, because first of all, like, you know, if you're there like and not being paid, you know, with like, you know, gaining experience, I feel like it's more of a nicer environment usually. I mean, there were definitely ones that, like, if people treated me like crap and it was free, I was like, oh no, honey, I am not here for this. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, a bit of balance of both. But I've had so many really cool gigs come from probably the best, you know, ones that I just done for free, out of my own time, out of hours, crack of dawn, in the weekend. You know, I've done sort of like, you know, some extras work where then I've then did the makeup on that film. So I was just there as a, you know, background person by the tree.
I love that.
One of like 30 people, you know, but then just by being there and, you know, talking about what I do day to day, I then ended up working on the film, doing makeup, and then featured in it more and more.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
And
you just
also-
got to put your hands up.
And also when people get to know you and your style of work and the vibe and the energy that you bring to the set or the shoot or whatever the case is, they'd be more inclined to book you again and again and again. So that's really
Absolutely. And one thing that I always try to remember, which I sometimes find not everybody does, is that, you know, you are there to bring someone else's vision to life, unless you are the head makeup artist. But like, you are essentially bringing someone else's vision to life. So you can't be all up in there being like, oh, well, I want to do it this way, or I want to do it that way. You know, it's like, obviously you want to bring your personality and your style to the job or whatever it is, but being mindful. I think just being mindful is probably another big piece of advice.
And I think this is why we stress the importance of face charts so much.
And practice.
For sure.
You know,
and face charts being, you know, a document that symbolizes the vision that you're bringing to life. It's got techniques and everything on there. And I often say to students, if you look at a MAC counter, face charts are integral to.
Oh my God, they used to kill me.
Yeah.
Because everyone thinks like, oh, you're a makeup artist, like, you know, you must be really good at drawing. Go, I can't even draw a stick figure. Like, and then you're also dealing with a one-dimensional thing versus, you know, you haven't got the curves and the shapes of a face to play with. But that's also another important thing, is do as many different face shapes, eye shapes, ethnicities, the whole thing, because you can't, you know, go into a job where you're doing multiple people and you've only done makeup on your own face.
That's right.
Because it's very hard, because you can't just carbon copy that on that person and that person, because it doesn't look the same.
One's not going to look good for everybody, you know. It's not going to be suitable for every single person.
The more varied your skill set can be, the better chance you have of, like, you know, landing those really cool gigs that you want.
Yeah,
you know?
And also feeling confident, right? So knowing that you have that experience with different ethnicities, face shapes, complexions, it almost gives.
But they're not being afraid to, like, mess up and make a mistake. Like, it's just makeup at the end of the day. Just wipe it off.
You can wipe it off.
You know,
with hairdressing, I always say once you cut it off, it's gone. You can't put it back on.
I mean,
that's one thing.
That's a little bit different.
But with makeup, it's different. Like, you can really experiment and explore and do lots of different things and wipe it off at the end.
Yeah. Oh my God. I've been in some gigs where, like, I've gone in and did the makeup and not really understood the brief properly.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, this model was about to go on stage in like 10, 12 minutes time.
Yeah.
And then, like, the key makeup artist has come over and was like, oh, interesting. And that's not something
that's
you
not
want
a
to
good
hear.
thing.
Oh my God, I was dying. So then I like looked at because I was so engrossed and concentrated on what I was doing. I forgot to sort of stand back and look at it, but then also look at the other models for like that sort of continuity.
Yep.
Because even though they're all different eye shapes and cheekbones and what have you, it's still got to kind of look relatively consistent.
You're setting the stage for a theme around a show or a runway or whatever the case is. So you've got to have that consistency there.
But that was one thing that at least working at MAC really gave me, because we're very huge on theme days.
Yeah.
And, you know, there has to be that consistency, even though you all look different,
Yeah.
that it's still, you get the theme,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So anyway, there's nothing like pressure. And the interesting to get you going to just like strip it back, and then like, you know, you'd be surprised at what you can do when, like
100%.
under pressure.
100%.
I think I work better that way.
Yeah.
It stresses me out, but like, you know.
Because you just do everything in your power to make it work.
Like the
in those
anxiety gets
minutes.
you going.
Yeah.
My old tutor was always like, you know, anxiety is just the fuel for the fire. And I was just like, okay.
Oh, I'm burning day in, day out.
This place is burning down. This reminds me of a time where I had to be, you know, doing this makeup on the show last minute, and I didn't double check my kit. That's another thing. Make sure you got everything. Even the things that like, you think, nah, I won't need that. Put it in.
Bring it.
Band-aids, nail polish remover,
Clear nail
toenail
polish for a
clippers,
run in any
the whole lot,
stockings.
because you'll be surprised at what is presented to you.
Isn't it amazing how a makeup artist becomes the biggest problem solver on set?
Oh.
I got something for that.
I've had to get on my, like down on my hands and knees and like scrub fake tan
Oh no.
off, you know, models' eggs. I wish I knew of things like milk, glycolic acid, and things like that to strip it back. But yeah, you'll be surprised at some of the things you have to do.
Oh my God.
But I've had to make some interesting products work. I'm talking like, you know, sharpen an eyeliner and get like a little lash bully and like coat the lashes because I didn't have any mascara.
Oh my God.
Rookie mistake.
Made it work though.
Oh, I made it work.
Absolutely.
You know, it looked cute. It just took me 10 minutes to coat each. So
Did you do the lighter trick? Melt it down?
Yeah.
Drag queen
Probably
taught me that.
not a great like sensory experience
Oh,
or chemical,
probably not.
but
But, you know, back
You
in
gotta
the
make it
day,
work,
you got to make
you
it
know,
work.
so.
So fast forward to today, to your current role. Let's talk a little bit about like the brands and what sort of things your job looks like.
so you know, looking after 5 different luxury brands that have skincare, makeup, fragrance. It keeps me very busy. I do a lot of travel. But again, I just put my hand up with everything. Like I didn't even know what a woody or a spicy fragrance was like 10 years ago. You know, I was still wearing, you know, Youp Red or like FCUK, you know what I mean? Like basic. Oh God, I had some very humble beginnings.
Yep.
Okay. I didn't know what I liked. I just bought what I thought was popular.
Yeah.
So, but again, like it just kind of in the back of my mind always had like, well, why do I love this? You know? So again, when I took on some of the roles that I've had over the years, was I the best person for that at the time? Probably not. But, you know, I had the attitude, I had the drive. So you can learn all of those things. So
Attitude and drive you can't learn.
No, you can teach product, you can teach technique and things
Yeah.
like that, but you can't teach the attitude and that drive. And that's what definitely helped me because, you know, one of the things, again, I was told many years ago was something around, I forget like the proper saying, but it was like, just do it, ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah.
Or, you know, nowadays you have like YouTube,
Yeah.
you know, so you can learn anything on there. You know, you've got the TikTok or the tickety-tock as I call it.
The tickety-tock.
Yeah, the gram and all that.
Yeah.
You know, you've got all these tools now that were not around then, but you just buddied up with people that had the experience. But anyway, back to sort of my current role. I did tell a little bit of a fib, right, when I applied for it. So, because, you know, usually, you know, because being a kind of like a corporate sort of head office training role, you know, you've got to make PowerPoints and there's Excel, which is like probably my most hated software in the world. Like I love it now and I use it a lot, but the amount of times I'd be like Googling how to add formula, how to make the picture disappear, literally everything. So it took me forever and I'd be stressed out and highly strung all the time, but I made it work.
Yeah.
And yeah, there ain't nothing like not knowing what to do to
kick you into gear.
Yeah. So that's how I got the job. But again, being that I'm in a training role now, I didn't have that like core training experience, like as in a standalone role in training. But whenever we had MAC trainings or Joe Malone trainings or any brand trainings for the brands that I'd worked for, I'd be there at setup with the trainer because it takes a long time to set up the room, set up the gifts. You've got to, your curriculum, your presentations and everything like that takes so long.
Yeah.
So I would always offer to, get there at 6:30, 6:45 a.m. to help the trainer set up, who's just flown in that morning at the crack of dawn.
Yeah.
Because I was just weaseling my way in, to be honest.
And that's the aim of the game.
Yeah, I wasn't just sitting back being like, I'm going to get a training role because I've been in the gig for 10 years.
Yeah.
It was like just those little things, that, were my choice, but it's because that's what I wanted. So I did everything I could. I made sure, they heard me coming. I made sure they knew I was there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because again, you're one of so many people.
And you got to do what you can to be noticed and to be taken, seriously, that this is something that you really want to do for a long time.
Yeah, and you just annoy them until they let you.
Yeah, I love that.
Even when they're like, oh, that's okay, it's
I'll
easy.
Try again tomorrow.
We've got people at the setup. Bam, who turns up there the next morning? Hey, I was early. I just thought I'd get the train in, and then inevitably they see that little fire in you.
Let's throw him a bone, shall we?
It's those things that get remembered.
Yeah,
it's those passion, little things. One thing I really love about my job is the varied brands.
Yeah.
And that, every day is different. And by no means am I just, if I'm in their training, am I not selling? I'm there to help the team, spend time with them. Fostering relationships is a huge thing. We've talked about that already, about making those connections, because I can't be in those stores every day. And a huge part of my job is influencing, I don't have sales targets, but, by having those relationships in stores, having fun with the teams, empowering them with that knowledge on those products and brand storytelling, which is a huge thing as well. I can feel confident that when I leave and I'm in another store, that still continues, even though, the brands that I look after are a few of hundreds that are in there. So, I mean, look, you could low-key call it manipulation. But, in a friendly way. You can't expect to have XYZ results if you don't have those relationships.
Well, that's the thing, and I think as well it's about educating and empowering the staff that's in the stores to make the right decision for their client that's coming in, or knowing what to put on. They may have a particular skin issue. I've got a cream for that.
Yes,
It
exactly.
Cosmetics has got a cream for that.
Oh, by the way, let me show you this.
That's right.
But then, in saying that as well, it's being respectful of the environment that you're in, because unlike, being in a department store where you're a standalone brand, I'm in their space. Or as a brand rep or educator, I'm in their space. So it's very much like, an unbiased sort of approach, because you can't if someone's looking at Gucci, you can't just be like, oh, don't look at that, come over here.
Yeah.
But you can still utilize those other brands that they're looking at, and then can kind of segue into the brands that you might look after, but in a very genuine way. You can't just be like, they want a sheer glowy foundation, and here we are over at Power Fabric, or something super matte. That's not what they want. But even then, I've had gigs come up from doing demoing in store, because that's one thing. You know this as well, that you kind of go, oh God, here we go, another foundation match.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this lash application is going to bring down my KPI.
It's particularly for brands that champion foundation. So brands like Estee Lauder championing Double Wear, or Armani that champions Luminous Silk, or even MAC with their Studio Fix Fluid. That's one of the biggest sellers for them. You sort of not get over it, but it becomes a bit mundane.
I so get it, and I deal with this day in, day out with, I call them the kids in store, is that, again, you just never know who that person is that's sitting in your chair. There have been times where, back when I was in the shop floor, and I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to lie. Some days I was like, if I have to do another foundation match today, I'm out.
One day, I remember I thought to myself, this lady is so not going to buy anything from me.
Yeah.
So I just threw caution to the wind, and I just had fun with her.
Yeah.
We just you know, the store was quiet. We just played around with makeup. And at the end, and I was working for Armani at the time, at the end, she bought every single thing that I put on her face.
That's actually a really good point, because you can't judge a book by its cover. You have no idea who's sitting in your chair.
Yeah.
I've had customers that have dropped the big ones,
Yeah.
and you know, like yourself, you know, I would have thought at the time, like, okay, but you've just got to have fun, because you don't know where it's going. I've had gigs come from those things as well.
Absolutely. I've had bridal gigs come from stuff.
I was on
like
Fashion Week from just, you know, the person in store was like a backstage coordinator.
That's so cool.
Had I have gone on my first initial, I guess, perception, I probably wouldn't have done that gig. So, yeah, having fun in store.
Keeping it open.
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
You know?
Big one. I mean, be professional, but don't take yourself too seriously.
You've got to have fun, because, you know, you don't want work to be a chore.
Not only that, but makeup is a fun thing.
Yeah.
Makeup is a fun,
it's just
expressive
makeup.
thing. Exactly, it's just makeup.
You don't know the power of something as simple as a lipstick or a foundation shade match on somebody, and how much confidence it gives that person.
Yeah.
You know, when you're doing it day in, day out, and it's your 30th one for the day, we don't often, because we're so consumed in our own thoughts sometimes, we don't realize how much that foundation means to that person, and the confidence it gives them.
For sure.
Because, you know,
it's so important.
You just think it's, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Here we go, another 5.5.
Oh, God, this ain't worth wasting my sponge.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, you've just got to kind of remove yourself from that situation, and just go, actually, this may only be a lipstick, but it's...
And what is something so simple to us as makeup artists is something huge to the layperson that has never touched makeup, or is not a regular makeup user. Like, that can be a huge revelation for them, and a change in their confidence.
And non-judgmental, you know. And I was guilty of this when I first started as well. You know, you're asking the questions, like, what's your skin type? And then, you know, they're like, I don't know. And then, you know, on the side you're like, what do you mean you don't know? Obviously you wouldn't say that, but again, just removing that judgment, because you just don't know.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I know you have a lot of experience in Mecca and Sephora in your current role. If you could get 5 products from either that you would recommend everybody has in their kit, what would they be?
5 product range must-haves. Definitely a really beautiful sheer coverage, or sheer to medium coverage. Yeah, buildable. So something kind of like either luminous silk, MAC face and body, sort of around those sort of vein. You know, in a range of shades. You don't need the whole, I think MAC has like 72 shades in their revamped Studio Fix.
Yeah.
You don't need all of those. You need a couple of lighter tones, a couple in the middle, and a couple of deeper, because building that experience, I've been able to make those 6 to 8 shades, you know, starting off work, is a real skill to have. Understanding the color wheel for that, you know, that reason as well.
For sure.
A concealer palette.
Yep.
Or it could be like a full coverage foundation palette, like a lot of brands do them. Makeup Forever has a really great one. It's got some cheek colors.
Yeah.
It's got a range of tones, and
the Kevin O'Con Sensual Skin is beautiful as well.
Because again, multi-use. You can use that cream foundation concealer palette to sculpt, highlight, build up coverage on that sheer foundation. So you've got to think.
Eyeshadow primer as well.
Yes.
Use it as a lot for a lot. Build coverage, build shape in the face, dimension, add dimension. You can even use it to bronze.
So what we've got like a sheer medium foundation. We've got a concealer palette, a good eyeshadow palette that's got a range of neutrals in it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to have all the purples, the reds, the pinks. You know, when you're starting out, a good setting or hydration spray, because, you know, even if, you know, you're going to like a sort of full matte coverage, you still want that, like, to look, you know, like it's got life.
It's got a bit of life.
Oh my God, it's so hard to choose 5 products. Skincare.
Yeah.
Because again, you can have all the pretty makeup products and shades in the world, but if the skin ain't looking cute, it's not going to do your makeup justice. So good hydrating moisturizer that can, you know, sort of fit oily to dry. Sheer medium coverage foundation, a palette of concealers, an eyeshadow palette, and then a good hydrating spray. I'm very big on skincare when it comes to makeup. So use products that are easy.
Yeah, it makes
Don't spend
your life
all
easier.
day building up a smoky eye. You know, lay a pencil down first, blend that out, give it something to grab to, and it'll just make your life easier. Because I used to like spend so much of my time when I would be on counter doing makeups, and like you know, it'll be getting sort of towards the end of the appointment, and I'm still like finicking like this.
Stepping
and it's like,
back and making sure.
why did I bother spending all that time doing the foundation and the contour at first when I'm about to get my, you know, hands all over it and then have to do it again?
Which is interesting because in makeup school, well, at least when I was taught, we were always taught to do your complexion as the very first thing.
Which, yes, I agree with.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to leave your client completely bare naked and exposed because they're staring at themselves in the mirror.
Yeah.
So a light dusting, but I would never powder and set it because once you've powdered everything, that's
staying
you know,
there.
you're set. It's harder to kind of fix up those mistakes. So, you know, I would give them a quick minute or two, like even out and a little bit so that they, you know, feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would never set anything because the amount of times, especially when you're dealing with, you know, pigments or any sort of flyaway, and then
God,
all of a
those
sudden you
matte
got panda eyes, and then you got glitter everywhere, and then you spend so much of your time.
Yeah, and it's just,
you know.
yeah, it's a lot of time wasted.
Yeah, just throw it on.
Yeah.
One of the best things I learned, because I used to be so, look, you know, you want it to be beautifully done.
And polished.
But I would spend so much time with these little finicky details that really didn't matter that I could have done at the end.
Whilst it's good for you to be creative in that way, at the end of the day, when someone's looking directly at, they're not going to go, oh wow, is that a navy liner you've got on? They're not really going to do that.
No,
Yeah.
no. And like blending it out to nothing
Yeah.
was something that one of my tutors would always tell me. They're like, Duane, you do such beautiful makeup, but you always end up blending it out into the existence and like, now you can't see it anymore. She's like, and you're like, she's like, and it's really surprising because, you know, you've got these like big man hands, right? But I'll be, she's like, she'd be like if she was my model, she'd like have her eyes closed and I'd be doing, she's like, are you even like doing my makeup?
Because you've got such a light touch.
Because I think they were like little dainty
Oh.
and like blending it into nothing that, you know, that was another reason why like the tutors were always like that little extra, you know, sort of harsher on me too, because I would produce this beautiful makeup, but then like I'd spend so long doing it because I was just so pedantic.
For sure.
So you just got to like chill out a little bit.
And I think it's our job as tutors too to meet you where you're at. So if you're at a level where we think that you can do more, and we know that you can do more, we are going to ask for more.
Yeah, and I would expect that. I mean, at
Yeah.
the time I was like, oh, like, I've already passed this module.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot from
Yeah.
students too, to be honest. They're like,
I'm sure you do,
you want
but
me to
like,
do this again?
This is for the greater good.
Yeah, for sure.
And I thank, you know, when I look back, I'm very thankful for that, you know, sort of extra critique. Oh my God, that's another thing. Feedback is a gift.
Yes.
Oh my God, I tell you what, the amount of times I've heard that in my life, I'd be like, are you sure? But, you know, it obviously still has to be constructive, you know, because you are dealing with somebody's like passion and feelings.
And their
and
art
you know,
form.
you don't want to discourage people.
For sure.
But, yeah, and it's the same in store. Like, you know, I can tell who is very, like, they want more. They're very passionate and who's just kind of along for the ride, which is fine, you know. Working in beauty is not everyone's be all and end all.
Yeah.
It may be a, you know, one thing I've always found in retail or makeup in general is that it's kind of like a bit of a side hobby job, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then when you see those people that have that sparkle and that fire, stoke it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, get that flame going, because that's what I had.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't honestly be here without those tutors that I had. And you know, there've been days where I'm just like, oh my God, I really, you know, I can't be bothered today. I am an insomniac.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes by the end of the week, the last thing I want to do is train and facilitate. But I pick it up, I get my shit together, and, you know, go through, and then I get in store, and then you see that sparkle in their eyes and that thirst for knowledge, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is worth the 2.5 hours sleep.
This is why I do it, right?
Yeah. It's corny, but it really is, and it's why I love the job that I do, because it's like every day is different. I'm in a different location across Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Sydney, Brisbane, the whole damn country, and then New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
So
busy.
it's fun. You know, it's really beautiful.
And what's next for you?
Oh, God, I know I said before that, like, you got to think about your end goal. I feel like I'm at that first step of the end goal. So now I'm in a bit of a process being like, okay, well, what's that next? You know, I've been in the industry now for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So, and I'm still going, but it's because I've had varied roles from counter manager to working in a head office for Mac, looking after Mac Pro membership for Australia and New Zealand, film and TV accounts. So I used to visit film and TV sets and guide them on makeup.
Amazing.
I've been to the Pirates of the Caribbean set and Thor set when I lived in Queensland. It is amazing, but you know what? As a sci-fi fantasy geek, even though I know a lot of that ain't real, there's nothing more soul-crushing than arriving at a set and you see the Pirates of the Caribbean boat and it's this big.
Oh no!
And the rest is blue screen. Even though I know they ain't out there in the South Pacific cruising away pirates.
They've sold you the fantasy though.
Yeah, they sold me the fantasy, and but that was really cute. So those experiences, and then going from that and having my world end, I felt at the time when that sort of role finished up, and I felt a bit lost because I was all I'd done was makeup for the last 10 years, and having to apply for a job again, and then going completely off rail from that into fragrance, and starting again. Yeah. So going, I sort of clawed and scratched my way and annoyed everybody until I kind of got up into that sort of head office role, and then like a ton of bricks came crashing down, and then changing paths to getting into more fragrance and skincare. And the amount of times people told me I was crazy because they're Duane, you've got all this experience, you've been head office, why are you going back to a counter level job? And I just, there were times where I thought, oh my God, have I made the right choice? But I was prepared to do whatever it was to, I guess, go on that new path of fragrance and skincare, even though I was starting kind of from scratch again. But I was very determined and gave it a go. And here we are.
And clearly that determination has paid off in what you do every day.
Oh, I can be really annoying.
Yeah. This is why we're friends.
I can be annoying at the fact that I wouldn't call myself a competitive person, but if I am dead set on that's what I want, I'm gonna get it.
Yep.
It may take me on this spaghetti ass journey and then back again and back again, but you just got to keep your eye on the prize. Looking back, if I had actually knew what the prize was, maybe. Yeah. But I don't have regrets in that kind of aspect because, you just don't know where that next,
that next
sort of hurdle is. And there's a little bump in the road, but that bump could lead you, up the damn mountain the next turn.
Embrace it, right?
But yeah, there were a lot of times where I sort of believed or listened to that sort of exterior critique where if I had have done, I wouldn't have this job.
Yeah.
So
you listened to yourself and really trusted in yourself to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and sometimes that wasn't the best advice. But you just can't get too caught up, and that's why breaking it down, and that doesn't mean you have to be regimented to that, these are the steps. Yeah. Because you get to that step and then you might kind of deviate a little bit and then, get re-inspired and but yeah, just remembering, we're all human. If that's what you want to do, you will get there. Yeah. But nothing happens if you give up.
That's right.
And I gave up a million times, and there were times where I was just this ain't for me. Serious self-doubt. Yeah. I mean, that's not even just ADHD. That's just being a Pisces. You know what I mean?
Pisces energy for sure.
Self-doubt. I'd get these crazy ideas in my head about oh yeah, I'm going to do that, and then within a day be oh, nah, it's okay. I can't do that.
That was the Duane of yesterday.
That was the old Duane. Yeah. 2024 and beyond, or 2023 and beyond Duane is I could do whatever I want.
That's it.
And if I can't, I'll learn later.
A year of yes is what you
There's
need.
A YouTube module for that.
Yeah, literally.
There is.
Yeah, there's everything.
So, yeah.
Awesome. So I know you love fragrance.
Obsessed.
And I know that is part of your job as well. I too love fragrance, and many of the tutors on the team love fragrance as well. What are your favourites? What's having a moment at the moment in the fragrance world? And what do you look for in a good fragrance?
Yes. Obsessed. Where do I start? it's really interesting because just like makeup, right, when all these trends sort of loop back, you know, you've got the latte trend, strawberry, the underpainting, those are all such old recycled sort of things, right? So what I'm seeing a lot of at the moment is vanilla and cherry.
Yeah.
So those are two sort of big fragrance styles that have come around. A lot of gourmand.
I love a gourmand.
You know, everyone is like frothing for the, is it Kayali?
Yeah, Kayali, Vanilla 28.
Ooh, the minute I walk into a store, I can smell that for miles. I'm like, they've been spraying that pistachio one and the vanilla one. So your vanilla and cherry being a huge trend. But what I'm seeing a lot of people clawing back from the super strong parfums and the extracts.
Yeah.
Like there is a market for that, but I think people are looking for more bang for their buck and complexity. So not in terms of, you know, it being the strongest concentration and lasting for 2 days, but having a fragrance that, you know, tells a story. You know, you'd know this yourself that not only is fragrance storytelling a huge thing of the fragrance, it's the journey of the fragrance, the top notes, the heart notes, and the base notes. So some really fragrances I hear a lot. Kayali, Baccarat Rouge. Yeah. Every brand has their one that just like people flog in for.
I'm so sick of Baccarat Rouge.
Look, it is a beautifully crafted fragrance. So like the composition of that fragrance is beautiful. One fragrance that is popping off is Maison Crivelli. I've heard a lot about that. There's a lot of movement towards more niche brands. I mean, yes, your commercial brands like your Ralph Lauren's, your C's, your Gucci, all those kind of brands, or your fashion designer brands, they have their place. But I've seen a lot of people moving towards those sort of more niche ones. So, like I said, cherry's a trend, vanilla's a trend, outdoors. Yeah. But yeah, basically anything from those brands. Le Labo still has a bit of a spot, but people are moving towards those fragrances that have more of a freshness to them, but still some backbone and longevity. So rather than looking for specific fragrance brands, I look for personally fragrance styles and notes. So Ambroxan, which is beautiful. Almost like animalic kind of musk, other than like white musk, which is very crystalline and powdery. I look for interesting notes, so not your typical fruity ones like strawberry and watermelon. Like, that's not for me.
I mean,
I'm all about fragrance wardrobe, right? You know, fragrance is very much like that last piece of the outfit. So having a couple of varied, and layering. I love layering. Yeah. I mean, even pre-Jo Malone, which Jo Malone's very much into layering, having a lighter style fresh scent, something kind of in the middle, and then a nice deep, sensual, woody, even kind of slightly ambery or leather. Yeah. And you can kind of layer those together just like makeup as well and kind of create something a little bit more bespoke and unique.
I love that.
People kind of go like, oh, that sounds a bit like, hoity-toity. It's like, but no, I mean, like, you don't want to smell like everybody.
And we want options.
Yeah, but love me some Jazz Club by the Fireplace. Gentle Fluidity by Maison Francis Kurkdjian is amazing for that really lighter but really impactful scent. Yeah. So I like the kind of styles.
Aqua Celestia is beautiful.
Love.
That's Maison Francis Kurkdjian.
Because you don't want to blow everybody away with your scent all the time. What is it? Fragrance should be seen, not heard. Yes. Or something like that. Yeah. You need a more intimate style setting as well. That scent that when you lean in on a hot day and you're like, oh, what are they wearing? Yeah. Like you feel allured by them. Alluring, something like that. Then you have your statement one where you're like, I am here. This is a confidence fragrance.
What's your statement fragrance?
Oh, Oud Wood Tom Ford.
Nice.
I do love that. Under the Stars by Replica. So it's like leather, oud, labdanum, warm Arabian Nights, or something like showstopper.
Mine is Fabulous by Tom Ford. Well, it's effing fabulous. Yeah, that's my showstopper. That's my showstopper.
Yeah. My kind of like, I'm being a little bit, mysterious today. Something like Sailing Day by Replica. Yeah. Or just something kind of like soft and citrusy. The thing about fragrance is just like makeup, it doesn't have to be expensive, Like at the end of the day, they all use the same damn ingredients.
That's right.
But it's the structure, the composition, the you know, the mix of those ingredients that, you know, some of my best favorite fragrances from all time over the years have been from, you know, like $15-20.
Oh please, Paris Hilton has a fragrance that I can't live without. It's just called Paris Hilton.
And it's fabulous.
It's fabulous.
See, that's all that matters.
I love it.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's just a great like throw around fragrance. I
Yeah.
don't know if you have one like that you just throw into a bag, throw into your car in the glove box.
Yeah.
And you just have it everywhere. And
Yeah,
being
that
so
used to be a
inexpensive.
David Beckham, like Instinct, I think it was called.
Love
It cost
it.
me like $14.95.
Love it.
But then on this other spectrum, I've got fragrances up to like, you know, almost $800,
Yeah.
which, you know, you don't have to do that. And it
Absolutely.
would kill me if I actually bought it.
Yeah.
Thank you, industry goods.
Thank you. That's such a perk in working in fragrance. You
Yeah.
get to try a lot and
People-
actually own a lot.
People freak out when I tell them how much some of the things I've got in my bathroom or my wardrobe cost. They're just like,
What?
for a fragrance?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's the luxury. You know, because they wouldn't have any other way, like dropping, you know, a few grand on a bag. Because see, I'm not into like the whole like history of designer brands. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fair.
I'm not walking around with my man bag.
Fair.
You know, so it's interesting what people place value on. You know, like for me, I think, yeah, this is worth every single cent.
Absolutely.
If I pay for it, would I still feel the same? I don't know. But hey, you know.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Duane, for joining us today on the potty. We've loved having you. We've learnt so much, and I certainly got to know you even better than I did before you came in. I actually did not know you were a chef, so that was so
Yeah.
interesting for me.
Well, it was probably something I never really talked about
Yeah.
on the old shop floor. But
Yeah.
yeah, you know, I got a bit of talent here, you know. So
Magic hands.
Yep.
Thanks, Duane. We've really loved having you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No worries. And if you have any questions for us at home, please let us know. We want to answer all your questions in our next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yay.